Exploiting Telnet. What we've done for SMB. Task number 7. Types of Telnet exploit. Telnet, being a protocol, is in and of itself insecure for the reasons we talked about earlier. It lacks encryption, so sends all communication over plain text, and for the most part has poor access control. There are CVEs for Telnet client and server systems, however, so when exploiting, you can check for those on CVE details and CVE MITRE organization. We've been here. I think on this website is the first time that I show it, but here we checked MITRE. A CVE, short for Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures, is a list of publicly disclosed computer security flaws. When someone refers to a CVE, they usually mean the CVE ID number assigned to a security flaw. There you go. For instance, we have this CVE. If we copy paste it, you can see from NIST database and CVE, right? As you can see here, we have it's actually from this year, and we have the ID of the vulnerability. On MITRE 6869I45041 devices, the manual firewall upgrade HTML page does not perform sanitization on the username and the path parameters sent by an authenticated user before appending flags to the box FTP get command. This leads to command execution. So you see, you can check for the description of the CV and multiple things. So yeah, that's one example of a SVE. However, you're far more likely to find a misconfiguration in how Telnet has been configured or in operating that will allow you to exploit it. Method breakdown. So from our enumeration stage, we know there is a poorly hidden Telnet service running on this machine. The service itself is marked backdoor. We have possible username of Skiddy implicated. Using this information, let's try access this Telnet port and using that as a foothold to get a full reverse shell on the machine. Connecting to Telnet. You can connect to a Telnet server with the following syntax. We're going to need to keep this in mind as we try to exploit this machine. What is a reverse shell? A shell can simply be described as a piece of code or a program which can be used to gain code or command execution on a device. A reverse shell is a type of a shell in which the target machine communicates back to the attacking machine. The attacking machine has a listening port on which it receives the connection, resulting in code or command execution being achieved. Here you can see a reverse shell. We have our computer and we have a listening port on our machine, right? The victim connects to attacker on listening ports, and here we can just see a simple connection from the victim to the attacker to portray a reverse shell. Answer the question below. Okay, let's try and connect to this Telnet port. If you get stuck, have a look at the syntax for connecting outline above. Okay, let's try and enter. And there you go. We have connected to IP 10.10.38147. Great. It's an open Telnet connection. What welcome message do we receive? Skiddy backdoor. Let's try executing some commands. Do we get a return or any input we enter into the Telnet session? Okay, we say list. Who am I? So it's not working. Let me see if I go like control and then square bracket. I say command list. Who am I? As you can see, invalid command list. Right? So for this is a no. That's strange. Let's check to see if what we're typing is being executed as a system command. Here I will say .help. We say .run list. Okay, we've tried that. Start a TCP dump listener on your local machine. If using your own machine with the OpenVPN connection, use the following command. If using the attack box, use the following command. Let's go for an if config. And here we can see we'll use tune0 network to go for a sudo TCP dump. Okay, so it's listening on tune0. And then we go for a Control-Shift-T. And here we say, let's see, this starts a TCP dump listener, specifically listening for ICMP traffic, which pings operate on. Now use a ping command through the Telnet session to see if we're able to connect to execute system commands. Do we receive any pings? Note you need to preface this with .run. Yes, we saw that we need .run. This being said, we have the TCP listening. We go for the connection. We go to connect. Okay. Now that we are connected, we say run ping, and then we ping the attack box. This will count, I presume, only for one ping. 1092. There you go. Cool. So we received the packets. Yes. Great. This means that we are able to execute system commands and that we are able to reach our local machine. Now let's have some fun. We're going to generate a reverse shell payload using MSF Venom. This will generate the encode and encode a netcat reverse shell for us. Here's our syntax. So we will use this. If we would use the same command on our machine, you will see that the payload is created, right? 97 bytes, and here we have the commands. Then we go over here. What word does the generated payload start with? We can say it over here. That's the first one. Perfect, we're nearly there. Now all we need to do is to start a netcat listener on our local machine. We do this by using lnc netcat, and we go here L for listen, V for verbose, and P for port. We go 4444. What would in our payload will look like this? VP on port right? Boom. Listening on that port. Great. Now that's running. We need to copy and paste our Venom payload into the Telnet session and run it as a command. Hopefully this will give us a shell on the target machine. Okay, so the steps to see the flag. We are connected from previous tasks on Telnet on the vulnerable machine IP on port 8012. And then on our machine, we run the MSF Venom command that we see over here by pasting our IP for tune0 network, right? That will create the payload on our machine, and here is the command that will run on the target. So here are the things that will run on the background in order to get our connection to the vulnerable machine. So steps to recreate this: first, in the Telnet, open your server, have a connection to it, then use the MSF Venom payload to generate your payload, start your netcat listener on port 4444, and then actually you can use any port that you want, but for the sake of this one, use port 4444. After netcat is opened, copy the command from the payload, MSF Venom payload, jump onto the Telnet, and then run with a copy paste of your created Venom payload. This will give you a connection to the target machine, a reverse shell, and here you can cat the flag in order to respond to the last question. Cool.